welcome back. Today I'm in Donaldsonville, Louisiana in Ascension Parish, and there's a lot to cover, but I'm gonna go over a few main historical aspects of the city dating back to when Donaldsonville was actually the capital of Louisiana. And there's so much to cover that I actually took some notes today. Did you know that Donaldsonville was the capital of Louisiana from 1829 to 1831? Well, now you know. So, looks like this historical marker actually fell off of its post right next to a cannon here. But like I said, there's a lot to cover, but I'm gonna go over a few cool things from the Civil War era. And where I'm standing right now, it's right on the banks of the Mississippi River over there. And after the capture of the city of New Orleans in April of 1862, Union gunboats made their way upriver. And David Farragut, the commander of the Union Navy here on the Mississippi River, gave the citizens of Donaldsonville a warning. He gave the civilians enough time to exit the city, and shortly after that, he began to completely destroy the city. He bombarded the city with artillery and mortar rounds from his gunboats, and he set fire to most of the shops and homes and plantation land. Well, after that, there was a few skirmishes here. Pretty significant one on St. Emma Plantation, which is just about 6 miles south of here. So I'm gonna go over that as well. Pretty cool. So where I'm standing right now was actually where Fort Butler once was. All right, sun's kind of in the way, but like I said, I'm right on the banks of the Mississippi. Fort Butler. So Union forces built Fort Butler in late 1862, and on June 27th, 1863, Confederate forces took part in a daring nighttime raid on Fort Butler. And I'll go back to this sign. You can see a really cool photo of the nighttime raid there, and you'll notice what this guy's wearing right here, and I'll go more into that with his cowboy hat on. 1863 night assault. Infantry from the 28th Maine Volunteer Regiment, as well as a number of former slaves and convalescent soldiers in the fort, fired on the swarming Confederates below. In addition, artillery from Union gunboats. Union gunboats were right on the river outside of the fort. Took a toll on the men from Texas and Arizona. Union casualties were light. So see if we can get in here. So this is where I am right here, and you can see the outline of the Star Fort, Fort Butler. Mississippi River's right here. So right where I'm standing was Fort Butler, Mississippi River right there. This is the only known photo of Fort Butler during the Civil War, possibly 1864. And then of course, the site was excavated in the 1990s and revealed some of the structural details, and they pulled a variety of artifacts. And this is a crazy little detail, but many brickbats were found in the diggings, and it is said during the battle, both the Confederates and the Union soldiers were actually tossing bricks at one another because their ammunition and powder were so wet that they couldn't fire any type of weapons. So they were literally picking up bricks and tossing them at each other. The first Battle of Donaldsonville took place in August 1862 as Union forces advanced up the Mississippi River after capturing the city of New Orleans. Flag Officer David Farragut led a Union naval squadron that included ships such as the USS Hartford, which was his flagship, USS Iroquois, USS Oneida, and the USS Richmond. When the fleet reached Donaldsonville, Louisiana, it briefly bombarded light Confederate defenses, prompting the outnumbered defenders to withdraw. The Union then secured the town by burning buildings and shops. Donaldsonville was a strategically important junction of the Mississippi River and Bayou Lafourche. Capturing the city further strengthened Union control of the lower Mississippi River. All right behind me is Bayou Lafourche, and just right across the street, right across the highway here, is St. Emma's Plantation, where a battle took place in July of 1863 by Confederate forces led by General Tom Green. And the Union troops skirted along the east and the west bank of Bayou Lafourche and met the Confederates here at St. Emma Plantation. So let's go check out the battle site. I'm gonna cross over the highway here. I can see the historical marker sign from here, and there's a beautiful home on the property. Let's see if we can cross. St. Emma Plantation, scene of Civil War skirmish in the fall of 1862. I'm gonna walk through and look at the home here. Following the surrender of Port Hudson, 2 Union divisions were shifted to Donaldsonville by transports. They were to move inland and pacify the interior. They marched up Bayou Lafourche, a division on each bank. Confederate Brigadier General Tom Green posted a brigade on the east side of the bayou and placed his 2nd Brigade on the other side. As the Union forces advanced, a battle occurred on July 11th and 12th. On the morning of the 13th, a foraging detachment set out along both banks of the bayou. Upon reaching Cox Plantation, they met rebel skirmishers that forced them back. Then Green's Confederates flung their might against the Union troops, which kept retiring, although they tried to make stands at various points. The Union troops eventually fell back to the protection of the guns at Fort Butler, about 6 miles from Cox Plantation. A much smaller rebel force had routed the Yankees. The mission failed, leaving the Confederates in control of the interior. Estimated casualties, 463 total. The U.S. sustained 430. The Confederate troops sustained 33. So there was a lot going on in July of 1863, right, during the war. So days prior to this battle here at Cox Plantation, the Union secured hard-fought victories at Gettysburg, Vicksburg, and Port Hudson. So after the surrender at Port Hudson, 2 divisions of Union troops made their way down the Mississippi River to Donaldsonville. So why did they come down here, and what? All right, like I mentioned earlier, Donaldsonville was once the capital of the state of Louisiana. And here we go. Donaldsonville, made capital of Louisiana in 1830. Legislature met from January 4th to March 16th and reconvened in 1831. In 1848, the old State House, located across from this site, was raised and its bricks used to prevent wave wash at the bayou's mouth. So, something important to point out here, that in 1868, so post-Civil War, Donaldsonville actually elected the first African-American mayor in the United States of America. And I'm going to refer to my notes here. So in 1868, the city of Donaldsonville elected the first African-American mayor in the United States, Pierre Celeste Landry.